It is said that King Solomon was the wisest man on earth. He had hundreds of wives, but he didn't marry every young lady who came to the palace. Oh no. The story goes that he had a little test that he would run, and it consisted of a band of silk, a circle made of silken material, and he'd hold that in front of himself like that, and he'd look at the young lady and he'd say, let's just check things out and see whether we would match. And so he'd then place his fingers through a hole in that circle of material, and he would tear. And if it tore into two circles, he'd say to the young lady, well, obviously our lives are separate and should remain so, goodbye, and she'd leave the palace. You might say, well, that's crazy, it's a wonder he ever married anybody. Wouldn't that happen every time? No, not every time. Occasionally something strange happened. He would take that circle of material and he'd place his fingers through a hole in it like this, and he would tear. But as the tear got to the other side, something very strange seemed to happen. Look at that. Not two separate circles, but this time two circles linked together. And when that occurred, King Solomon said to the young lady, it looks as if our lives may be linked together someday, but separate circles. It's not ideal. Tell you what, I'll think about it. Come back in 6 months. You might say, well, it's still a wonder that he married so many. Well, the story goes that occasionally when he tore the material, something else happened. Watch this. They tear the circle, and as the tear gets to the other side, something incredible happens. Look at that. The two circles become one large circle. And when this occurred, King Solomon said, obviously our lives should become one. We are completely compatible. Let us go to the temple and be married. Well, it's an interesting story. Not true, but it's a trick that I'm sure you want to know how to perform. Here's what you do. Start with a strip of material about 1 metre long and 10 centimetres wide. Any sort of material will do as long as it tears easily. At one end, with a pair of scissors, make 1, 2, 3 slits so that it's divided into 4 pieces. There we are. At the other end, just 1 slit in the middle, so it divides it into 2 pieces. And then you're going to stick the ends together. You'll notice I'm using sticky tape. You could, if you wanted to be fancy, use cotton and thread. Looks neater, takes a bit longer. But before I stick this end to that end, I'm going to give it a half twist. There we are. Twist it around like that, and then stick these two ends, these two little quarter ends, to the other side, which is twice the width. There we are, and I'll fold that over so that it sticks down securely. Now, this is actually a special kind of mathematical strip called a Möbius strip, after the man who invented it many, many hundreds of years ago. He was a German mathematician. On the other side, I'm going to do something that's very similar, but instead of just making a half twist, I'm going to make a half twist and then another half twist before joining. In other words, I have a full twist there. Once again, I join this end to that end. There we are. Now it's almost ready to carry out the trick, but not quite. What I want to do to make sure they tear easily is to extend that slit back a little bit through the sticky tape and part way along the other side, and do the same thing on the other side where we have the second piece of sticky tape. And now it's ready for King Solomon. Now the way to hold it is to put all those slits behind your hand so that the audience can't see them. On your left you'll have the half twist, and on your right you'll have the full twist. It goes around twice. For the first tear, all you do is to place your fingers in the middle slot, okay? So that when you pull it apart, you know what's going to happen. You'll end up with 2 completely separate circles. And then the one with the half twist, put it up on your arm. That's coming last. The next one to operate on is the one with the 2 twists. And to do that, once again, you find that slot, put your fingers through the middle and tear. But with this one, you'll have to be very careful when the tear gets almost to the other side, because that's when strange things happen. And because of the twist there, you'll end up with 2 circles linked together. And it does work. It'll work every time. And the last one, you remember the one that ended up with a big circle? It has a half twist in it, remember? Once again, fingers through the slot in the middle, and then pull apart, and if you've done it carefully and accurately, you'll find that you get a full circle.